It was a cold winter morning, and James Pereira was walking through the park near his house on the way to school. He wouldn't normally cut across the park, as he didn't like having to avoid all the joggers, but he was running late. Cold winter mornings in the run-up to Christmas are great. You're thinking about mince pies and Christmas cake and Christmas pudding, but this was January, the worst time of the year. Christmas is over, and the teachers are at their most miserable. And, because it's a new year, adults seem to go crazy, obsessing about fresh starts and getting fit or meeting their goals, whatever that means. The park in January is always packed with people exercising in tracksuits that are too small for them, and there's less cake about when you go to visit people because they're all trying to eat healthily at this time of year. James thought that was ridiculous. Why on earth would you want to live your life without cake? It made no sense. James's thoughts on baked treats were interrupted by a man coming towards him. The man wasn't looking where he was going because he was absolutely smashing through an enormous box of muffins, eating them so fast you'd think he'd just been told eating muffins was going to be made illegal in 10 minutes. He was loving those cakes. Chunks and crumbs were flying all over the place. In fact, the man's face was covered in so much muffin debris that you couldn't be completely sure where his face ended and muffin began. What an animal. James didn't say any of this out loud, of course. He just thought it as the man walked past. He definitely didn't have a problem with someone loving muffins. Of course not. Muffins are incredible, particularly the triple chocolate ones that have those little fudge chunks rammed in the top. James would sometimes buy a box of 4, remove the fudge from 3 of them, and put it all on the last one, creating a super muffin. He would then offer the other 3 to friends, saving the best muffin for himself. Although one time he dropped the super muffin on the floor in front of everyone. He pretended not to care because people were watching, but if he'd have been on his own, he would have picked up the muffin and eaten it anyway. That amount of fudge is worth catching floor disease for. As the Muffin Man walked past James, he was eating so crazily that one of the muffins, possibly blueberry, fell from the huge box he was carrying. James watched it tumble to the ground, while also noting that the man was completely unaware that he had a muffin overboard. Imagine having so many that you don't even notice that you've lost one. What a glorious life this man must lead. James was about to run after the man to tell him when he saw that the muffin hadn't stopped moving. It was rolling around in a way that you'd have to say was unusual. It's very rare to see a muffin on the move. Think about it. Have you ever seen one? Well, this muffin kept going. It rolled round and round, faster and faster. Then it trundled towards James. Ordinarily, this wouldn't have worried him. He'd have been happy to see a delicious muffin rolling his way. But this muffin seemed to be getting bigger. Yes, it was definitely growing. In fact, it was getting bigger so quickly that as it moved towards James, he instinctively backed away. The muffin began to speed up, and it got larger and larger and larger. Soon, it was moving so quickly that walking backwards wasn't going to cut it anymore. James was beginning to panic. He turned his back on the muffin, something he never thought he'd find himself doing, and ran. When he looked over his shoulder, the muffin was the size of a dog. He speeded up. He glanced behind him again. Now the muffin was the size of a car. He speeded up. He looked back once more, and the muffin was the size of an even bigger car. James ran faster. He turned round, and the muffin was the size of a massive car. Turns out it's actually quite difficult to do size comparisons when you're trying to escape from a mega muffin. James was getting out of breath now, which was a problem because the muffin didn't seem to be having the same issue. He couldn't go on much longer. He needed to evade the muffin somehow. But how? After a moment's pause, he decided his best bet would be to dive out of the way and perform a roll of his own. Then, hopefully, he'd be able to watch the beast muffin speed harmlessly by. He took a deep breath. It was now or never, and leaped onto the grass to the right of him and rolled for dear life.